When it comes to home gardens and flowers, roses are a classic as they come. But if you have them, you probably know they can be a little bit high maintenance. I know they are for me, so I'm excited for this segment. So we're wondering, are these oh so popular flowers still worth your time and energy? And my first guest says, absolutely. You just need to select the right variety for your yard. Gardening expert Sheriden Hansen is here to tell us more. Sheriden, you are a big fan of roses. I
am a big fan of roses, and I wasn't always. It took me a while to get there, but I absolutely love them. The colors, the fragrance, the petals, they're like the most exquisite thing. It's like what we seek to achieve in the garden. So.
Well, I am here to learn today because I have roses. I am not a gardener. I'm still trying to figure things out. So tell us a little bit more. Why do you love roses in the garden?
I love them because they give you this focal point. It's this big, beautiful bloom, typically. Sometimes we have smaller blooms, but it gives you color, and it adds that, like I said, that extra layer of fragrance. It's not just color and texture. Now we're dealing with a third sense of, that we're getting here. So, they're absolutely something that I would recommend adding in a focal spot in the right place in your garden.
Okay. I have visions of like a secret garden happening at my house with my planter boxes and everything. But I think I need to know how to grow them.
Yes.
Because they're kind of like in a stunted place. They're only about a year old. So tell us, what's the best way to grow our roses?
So we want to place them in really rich, well-draining soil. So we want to amend our soil with compost if we can. We want that soil to not be really heavy clay. So we want it to drain very nicely. It also needs to be in full sun. So that means 6 to 8 hours of sunlight every single day.
Okay.
If we don't get that, we're not going to get bloom. And the whole point of the rose is to get bloom.
Yes, we want the bloom. Now you brought a ton of different varieties.
I did. I brought a bunch of different varieties for us to kind of talk through. And our first one is this hybrid tea. And this is kind
gorgeous.
Oh, it's glorious. This is what you would expect to see in your grandparents' garden. So if your grandparents grew roses, they likely grew hybrid tea roses. Now they've been hybridized. They have that word hybrid in them, which means they've been bred. They've been bred for size of bloom. They've been bred for color. One of the things they tend to lack sometimes is fragrance because it's been bred out.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was a trade-off to get the bigger bloom and the colors that we wanted. But exquisite for floral work, if you're a cut flower grower, wanted to have cut flowers in your home, hybrid teas are going to be something that you want to invest in.
Oh my gosh, and they get really quite big, and look at the color. They just look so soft and velvety and just gorgeous.
And this one's called Falling in Love, and I don't know how you cannot fall in love.
Feels like the perfect name for this one.
Yes.
All right, this looks a little bit more like what I have in my garden, a little bit more of a petite rose.
A little bit smaller bloom. So these are the knockout roses, and I tried to push this to get it to bloom, but it just didn't want to go. But these are more of a shrub type rose.
Yeah.
And instead of having some of the technical pruning that you have on some of the other roses, these ones can actually be hedged. So you can grab a hedger and you can hedge these into a shape. I use these, so my house is on a corner lot. I use this on the corner because it's where you enter into our neighborhood, and it is a massive color for about 6 months out of the year.
Wow.
They're beautiful.
So is that a pretty long time to have roses blooming, is 6 months you said?
Yes, that's a very long bloom time. And I really get like 2 flushes. So they'll come out and they'll do an initial bloom. They'll pull back just a little bit, and then I'll get a second flush of bloom. So, with the other roses, we don't tend to see that quite so much.
This is the rose that keeps on giving.
That's the one that keeps on giving. This one is also a giver. So this is a carpet rose. And I've been getting a lot of questions about carpet roses. So these are low growing. They don't get more than about 2 to 3 feet tall. They have more of this simple kind of classic bloom, single petal, but they ramble over a large area. So if you have an area that you're trying to cover and you want that color, this is a great thing. And a little bit less on the pruning on this one too. So these can go without much pruning, but every now and then you should cut back about a third, give it a little rejuvenation to push new growth and new bloom.
Now, and this is an interesting petal because when I think of roses, I think of these layers of petals, and this is very different, especially with the center.
Yes, it is. And this is the way roses were in nature before we started hybridizing and playing with them. So that single petal that's open, easy for pollinators to access. And if you look at our native roses in Utah, they look a lot more like this.
That is so interesting. interesting.
Isn't it?
What a beautiful flower, and I love the idea as a filler.
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
what is this gorgeous peach rose we're looking at?
This is a gorgeous rose. This one is called Golden Opportunity, and this is a climbing rose. So, you know, instead of being low growing, we can also go over arbors and trellises. These are glorious. So this is a floribunda type, so or grandiflora type. Sorry, grandiflora type, which means that we get a lot of bloom in clusters, and it will cover that climbing rose. So these climbing roses come in different heights, so they can be 8 to 14 feet tall. Okay. So you can have short, medium, and high on the climbing rose types. And this one is a tall one, so this you need a very large arbor to support this. And the pruning can become a little bit more specialized with the climbing roses. So.
Wow,
yes.
Nice tall. This is where my secret garden needs to be formed, right
That's
here.
the entrance into your
that
garden.
That is the entrance right there.
there.
But I love this one. It reminds me of a peony a little bit because of all the layers.
It does.
What's
and
this
these
one?
are beautiful. These are Old English roses, and we typically call them David Austin roses because he's the breeder that everybody associates us with. So David Austin started to breed Old English roses in the 1960s, and one of his focuses was to get yellow roses. So in nature, there's just not quite as many yellow roses as what we see other colors. So he spent a lot of time breeding, grafting to rootstocks, and these are kind of the epitome, the pinnacle of the rose world. So you get these big cup-shaped blooms, what are sometimes referred to as cabbage roses, and they have a huge petal count. Gorgeous old world type fragrance. So you get different notes on the fragrances coming through on these than you would on any other rose. So if you're a collector, you probably are in this realm.
I'm in love with so many of them. Okay, so now that we have our options, what are the tips for planting the roses to make sure we get a great bloom and growth?
Everything I brought today is in a container. So containers are a little bit easier to work with. So you're just going to pick it up from the nursery, you're going to plant it at the level that it's planted in the container, and it will grow, it will do well. You're going to water it in really well. Some of them, if you're going to order online, especially some of the specialty roses like David Austin's or Old English roses, they're going to come bare roots, so they will not have any soil around the roots. And they'll ship to you. You have to soak them in water for a few hours before you plant, and then once you plant, you're going to want to water in really well to get rid of any air pockets in the soil around the roots.
Wow. Okay, a little bit more work.
A little more
on these ones.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
But worth it.
Okay, worth it. Which one would be the easiest to plant and maintain?
I think the knockout roses would be the easiest one to plant and maintain, that or the carpet roses. So,
carpet roses.
Yep, very easy, very low maintenance.
Oh, Sheriden, I'm excited to go home and garden because I haven't been yet this spring, so this is getting me excited. Where can we find out more about our gardens and more from you?
We have fantastic websites, resources for you at garden.usu.edu. You can find pretty much anything in the gardening world. We have something on it. So,
Thank you so much, Sheriden. Appreciate this.
Thank you.